All right, so imagine the last sales call that you took for your fitness coaching. If you were worried about what to say next, you didn't really know what was going on, you spent maybe 20 minutes on the sales call, they got off, gave you an objection, you weren't able to handle it, you didn't get the close, I'm going to show you in this video the exact sales framework that I give all of the coaches that I work with. I work with about 25 fitness coaches right now, have about 2.5 million followers in our management, and I have built out a framework for them that they are using on the side of their computer screen while they're on the sales calls with their prospects in order to close between $2,000 to $5,000 worth of fitness plans for each client that they get on with. And so I'm gonna show you not only how to use the framework, I'm gonna break down exactly why I have put everything where I've put it and show you how to naturally go through needle moving questions so that you don't have to worry about what to say next and you can focus on building rapport with your prospects, be able to pre-handle objections, and be able to actually pitch the exact way that my clients do, all in like a 12-minute video I'm about to break down right now. So let's get into it. I'll see you there. All right, if you don't already know me, my name is Marco. It's a pleasure to meet you. This is a picture of me in the islands of Kauai, Hawaii. You should go if you haven't. It's amazing and beautiful. But I'm working with some of the heaviest hitters in the space right now. So this is Ethan Downey. He's one of my first clients. I speak about him all the time because of how well he is doing and continuing to do. But we're gonna talk about how he went from doing $4,000 a month to doing over $24,000 a month with his fitness coaching business in just 60 days of working together. Now a bunch of his friends are doing the same thing. So you see Savannah has 260,000, Rodney has 190,000, sponsored by Gymshark. Xander only has 50,000. Bro's doing a lot more than $8,000 a month right now. And right, like Ryan has 118,000. All these fitness coaches I'm working with are getting crazy results because they've decided to stop charging $300 a month and start charging over $3,000 for the fitness coaching. We're selling fitness plans for 12 months for $5K sometimes. And all that happens because of a framework that I use and teach them that gets them to sell high ticket flawlessly and easily. And so the reason why I say flawlessly is because so many people that I've worked with in the past, almost everybody, is not sure how to take a sales call. They use it as more of a consulting, onboarding thing where they take 15 minutes to diagnose their prospect and then try to educate them a little bit about fitness and then struggle to close for $300 a month and handle a bunch of objections and just fumble the bag, absolutely lose the sale. So what we're gonna talk about today is a framework that I give them that is, they use it right next to them. Like when they're starting out, they use this framework right next to them while they're closing, and it allows them to be able to go through the entire call and be able to not be afraid of what to say next, and then be able to close high ticket deals with no problem by being able to pre-handle objections and already know the right things to say that are actually gonna move the needle. So if you want this, I'll send it to you. Just DM me the call frame or DM me the word framework and I'll send it to you on my Instagram. So the questions in red are the most direct needle moving. You need to use them as guidelines to come up with your own questions in the moment that tie into the context and make it flow. But I've made it so that you can actually use these exact questions. But these are gonna be what give you the information that I call key data. It gives you everything you need to close when it comes down to it. And so two more things is you can never ask questions in an interview style way. You always have to use a form of acknowledge, compliment, and ask. And an example of that is, okay, thank you for telling me this. I understand because you're so strong for being able to deal with that is the compliment. And then you can ask your next question. And be mindful to not educate and start training them on this call. You still need to close them. So focus on helping them get started, sinking into their pain and helping them see that vision. So getting into it step by step. It's so important that within the first few minutes, you break the ice, create a connection, and make the conversation really human before diving into structure. And the way that you do that is by complimenting or mentioning something specific that they're wearing, something in the background, something that you noticed about their profile, how cool it is, and asking them about it. Because what this is gonna do is create the energy that you are gonna be able to match, and they're gonna mimic your body language. And so the more excited you are to talk to them, they're gonna reciprocate that energy, and you're gonna be building rapport throughout the whole call. And so the more moments where there is a heightened level of emotion, the better, but it's specifically important that you do this to set the tone in the beginning of the call. But how we're gonna pre-frame the call is you can say something like, so we've got about 45 minutes together right now. I just want to make sure that we use the time really intentionally to dive deep into what's going on with you to see if I can help. And then you can ask your first question that is going to set up, take control of the frame, and clarify what they want from the call, because the first part is the why and outcome of the call. This is what you need to figure out. The question that you can ask is, what made you want to hop on this call? Simple as that. Or you can ask, tell me a little bit about yourself and what's going on. What they're gonna do is they're going to get into their problem right away or their desired outcome. Either way, these are both things that you are going to cover in the next 10 minutes right after you ask them why they're getting on the call. You asking them what made them hop on the call is going to get them to naturally tell you either one of those things, and it's gonna set you up exactly on what trajectory you need to get to in order to actually close this high ticket deal that's coming up. So the next section is the problem and the struggles. And the goal here is to identify it, what's costing them, and getting them to admit that they're struggling and they have no idea what to do. And so some key questions that you have to ask is, why do you think you've been struggling with that? Because then you are going to get the reason of why they think they have been struggling with it. This is something super important for you to know, because when you're closing, you need to know the way of their thinking. You need to know why they think they haven't been able to achieve it, so that you can speak directly to their pain and either give them a reality check or just be able to relate to them so deeply that they're like, wow, this guy gets me and all my problems. Other thing that ties into that is you need to know what they've tried already and why they think it didn't work. And specifically, if they've worked with a coach previously, so that you know what their experience has been, so that you can, again, include this in your pitch. All of this that you're digging deep into is, one, helping you build rapport, but the second is they're gonna give you everything that you need to be able to pitch them at the end of the call. This is gonna be a combination of why they want to work with you, what they need help with, what their problems are, and what their desired outcome is. All of those four things are going to be compounded into a very charismatic pitch at the end that is gonna make sense on why you're charging high ticket, because this is actually a transformation. This isn't some random fitness plan with meal plans and custom workouts. And so some other things that you can ask is how long this has been a problem for you. It's pretty important to know. Who else is impacted by this? And then you can kind of sow the seed into actually getting into the next thing, which is the goal, which is what would happen if this stayed the same for another 3 to 6 months. This is such a digging deep into the wound question, because then they're gonna sit there and think, what would actually happen if it stayed the same? It would suck. So now that you've opened the wound, you're guiding them into imagining what a better version of themselves would look like. And so a pivot question, because this is something that I see a bunch of people struggling with, is they don't know how to go through the phases. They don't know what kinds of transition questions to ask. And honestly, you are going to get so natural at it that it's not about how to transition smoothly. You might be going across the framework a little bit, you might be mixing, matching the phases, and it's okay as long as you are building the natural connection, because that is the most important thing. Like, you could be missing some of these things as when you get to the pitch, but as long as you've built that deep enough connection, you have at least 2 problems that are super serious. You know what they've tried already, you know who they've worked with, you know where they want to get to. You're going to be able to make that pitch, and then at the end, you'll see if you did it well, if they're going to buy. The pivot question, after you've sunk into the pain, is, so ideally, what does success actually look for you, right? You should already know this if you've had a good set. And so a better way to ask this is, so I know you want to get to X point, because they've probably already told you in the DMs. Is that the only goal you have, right? Every time you have an opportunity to know something already, even halfway, it builds so much authority. That's why you need to team up with your appointment setter and make it like a nurse and doctor relationship, where they are passing you all of the key data so that you can already get on the call and know them halfway without ever meeting them or speaking to them yourself. So the next phase that we're going to get into is their desired outcome. So the goal of this is that we want to unpack the real motivation behind why they want this change right now. Some key questions to ask is, what would make you happy if you achieved it in the next 90 days? This is just a better question to ask, in my opinion. I feel like it masks it a little bit of what's your goal. The next thing that you want to ask is why it is important to them and what changes when you finally hit it. And so once you understand their desired outcome and you're able to build that vision a little bit, now you understand the gap, because you've just covered everything that there is about their problems. You understand that at a deep level, why it matters so much that they fix their problems. And now you understand why it matters so much that they get to their desired outcome. And so now it is going to be time to show them how to fill that gap not in a way that you might be doing, which is educating them exact step-by-step on how they need to do it with your framework or your process, but you need to remember that they have not bought into anything yet. You should not be educating them like we talked about in our first basic principles, which is be mindful not to educate them. You still need to close them. So focus on helping them get started. And so getting into maybe like 70% of the way through our call, which is you need to fill the gap and lead into your pitch. And so the goal of this is to show that that gap is not only fixable, but with the right structure and support and strategy, it will definitely get fixed, and that you are the right person. And the way that we're gonna do this is we're gonna get them to tell you why you are the most qualified for them. So the questions you wanna ask right before you pitch, this is so powerful, is why would you potentially wanna get coached by me? You asking this right before you're about to pitch is going to get them to gas you up and give you the last 30% that you need in order to make that pitch tailored to them and super fire. Another question that one of my fitness coaches actually came up with, I stole it from him, is what are you looking forward to most from this program? So basically the same question, but just said differently. And so what's gonna happen is they're going to admit the gap exists, they're gonna get primed to hear your solution, and now they've spoken about why you are the solution, and again, giving you the last 30% of the pitch, saying that the last 70% is the problem and the outcomes tied together, and the gap that you're gonna create, not the gap, but the solution to fill that gap. Again, the pivot question to get into your pitch, this is something that you can say verbatim, is, okay, I'm so glad you said that to that question, the answer to the question of why would you potentially want to get coached by me? Because during this call, I've made a game plan of exactly how we are going to get to your desired outcome. Is it okay if I share it with you? Now you've asked permission to pitch. And so now, getting into the last part, which is actually the pitch, is that your goal is to deliver the plan that solves their specific problems and gets them to see the vision of their desired outcome and make it feel like you are the answer. And so what we need to do is present the step-by-step solution of what your process is, using their problems and goals as your pitch. And so an example of this is like super short example, but what we're gonna do here is eliminate the problems so that you never have to deal with it again. And I'm actually gonna teach you how to solve it so that you'll never need a coach ever again. If you just fill it out with their actual problems and you fill it with a little bit more fluff of your own personality, it's gonna be such a powerful statement thinking that they never need a coach again after they go through what you're gonna show them. Then we're also gonna show you how my process is gonna make it so that you're never dealing with this other problem that we talked about. And this is gonna make it possible for us to build your desired outcome and get to that level that we wanna get to. How would that feel to have that fully dialed in? Asking these questions in between your pitch makes it interactive and not like a sales pitch, you know? And like this hype that I'm trying to have for this video right now is what is gonna bring that energy up in the call. You actually need to like puff up your shoulders while you're talking, right? And get hyped for their transformation because they will see it in you. They will see the conviction and belief inside of you, and they're going to want to buy from you because you are so convicted. They're gonna be like, holy shit, this guy wants it more than I do for myself. So some engagement questions that you can ask in between this type of pitch is, why do you think this time would be different, right? They're like, holy shit, I mean, I guess because you're actually showing me everything. Can you see how this would solve what you're dealing with? And I'm like, yeah. And you're like, why? And you're like, oh, because of this, everything you just said, it makes so much sense. And so now you've shown the path, now it's time to anchor that investment on how to get there. What you need to do is, first of all, lock in. This isn't like some big moment. You need to pretend like this is just normal. This is the part of the call that you need to be the least worried about, because all the things that you've done up until this point, which is build the rapport, make sure to remember to pre-handle all the objections, which is something I probably should have added in the beginning. But the way that you pre-handle objections, by the way, is you need to ask the questions that people usually have objections about. So not having enough money, right? You can qualify them before. If they need to speak with their partner before, asking them how they feel about their own transformation and who else would be affected by it, if anyone, who they live with and what their situation is. Those types of things you know, so you will be able to pre-handle the objections. Or if someone starts saying like, oh, I already know how to do half the stuff, I'm just here for the meal plans. It's like, well, that just doesn't make any sense. Sorry for, being so blunt, but obviously you haven't achieved this. You said you've been working towards it for 6 months. You haven't really made much progress. So you're open to the idea that maybe it's a more holistic, rounded approach rather than just solving this one thing. And then if they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Now you've pre-handled that objection, because if they bring it up like, oh, I don't need all that you said. I actually only need this. You've spoken about it already before you're closing, so that you're not having to deal with it again in the end of the call. And so just be mindful. I'm gonna stop rambling right now, but just be mindful of all these things that you're dealing with at the end of your calls. All of it can be avoided by you just being aware, and stop thinking about what to say in your calls. Use this framework that I've given you to be able to actually be confident that you are moving the needle, and then focus on pre-handling the objections and building that rapport, and focus on digging deeper so that you know exactly what to pitch at the end of the call. It's that easy. Then at the end of the call, when you say the investment for everything I just outlined for 6 months is $2,500, you can pay that in full or split it into a plan. What makes most sense for you? Now the price is out, just shut up. Let them feel it out. Because most people that are qualified and they actually need the help, they will get resourceful if you've built that proper rapport with them. They will find the money for you, I promise. And especially with the financing, you can sell $2,500 plans with like $500 down. Like that's a joke. Why are you not collecting $2,500? The last part of this is to lock in and keep them hype while they pay. Make buying feel like it's a win, like it is. It's not a transaction, but momentum for their life. And so our clients do this really well, which is that they have productive small talk like you would have with a friend that you've met recently, saying you're gonna crush this. While you're pulling that up, what are you most excited to knock out first? Don't make them think too hard while they're paying, but this is just super important that you actually build that relationship and keep them locked in while they're paying. All right, I know that was a bunch of yapping, but I hope it made sense. If you want that exact framework, go ahead and DM me at Markovka on Instagram, and I'll send you that whole framework. Try to use it on your call and see what happens, because the whole point is for you to not think about what you're gonna say next and actually just be able to be confident moving into your sales calls, be able to close for high ticket and have no problem doing it because your clients need you. So lock in, actually go out and find all of those qualified leads in your inbox, in all of the engagement through your Instagram account, and use this framework to close them for high ticket. So if you need any help, again, message me on Instagram. Least I can do is send you a quick voice note of value, and I will see you soon. Remember, make sure to share some love, like, and subscribe. I'll see you.